MGTOW, guys. Welcome back. We're glad you could be here today. I haven't done story time in a while, so let's do that today. Men Going Their Way, or MGTOW, is a group of men who want to be independent and stay away from relationships with women. In many MGTOW stories, a man is asked to get tested for something serious like a sexually transmitted disease. This can be hard and stressful because the man must face the truth about his sexual health and may have to deal with unpleasant consequences. Some MGTOW followers, on the other hand, see this as an important step toward taking control of their own lives and bodies and not looking to women for validation or support. The moral of the story is often about how important it is to be responsible for yourself and take care of yourself. But let me tell you John's story. Once upon a time, there was a man named John who was fed up with society's traditional expectations for him. He thought that women always expected men to put their needs and wants first, even if it hurt their happiness and health. John became interested in MGTOW's ideas and decided to follow them to the letter. John decided to stop looking for a romantic relationship and instead focus on his growth and happiness. He put time and effort into his job, his hobbies, and his friendships with other men who believed like he did. John was happy and content with his life. He didn't feel like he had to settle down and start a family like most people do. John met a woman named Sarah one day. At first, Sarah was charming and interesting. But as they got to know each other, Sarah showed what she was really like. She was demanding and possessive, and she thought that John should always be there for her and put her needs first. John felt like she was suffocating him, and he realized that accepting MGTOW was the best thing he had ever done. He could leave the relationship without feeling bad or like he had to stay. John never looked back and kept living his life according to the principles of MGTOW. He was happy with whom he had become and what he had done with his life. He realized that putting himself first and focusing on his happiness had given him a full and happy life. Years went by, and John grew into a successful businessman known for coming up with new ideas and working hard. He had a close circle of friends, and many of them were also MGTOW followers. A lot of the time, they talked about what they believed and how it affected their daily lives. John was happy and content with his life, but he never forgot what he had learned about the dangers of putting women before himself. One day, Sarah called John's phone. She was in a tough spot and needed him to help her. John was unsure about getting involved, but in the end, he agreed to meet with her. He was shocked by how much she had changed when he saw her again. She was no longer the woman who was demanding and possessive. Instead, she was humble and sorry and asked him to forgive her for what she had done. John was divided. He wanted to help Sarah but knew he had to look out for himself. He had worked hard to build a life based on his values, and he didn't want to risk losing that by getting involved with her again. John decided to help Sarah after giving it a lot of thought, but he made sure to set clear rules. He helped her get back on her feet but made it clear that he didn't want to get back together. Sarah was thankful for his help, but she eventually moved on to start a new life. John learned something very important from this. He realized that by following the MGTOW rules in his life, he had become a better person who could help others while still putting himself first. He was happy with the decisions he had made and knew that the lessons he had learned along the way would stay with him forever. Years went by, and John's business kept getting better and better. He had made a name for himself as a successful and honest businessman. But his ideas about relationships and MGTOW were still sometimes criticized. People often said he was cynical and against women, but John never changed what he thought. John was asked to speak at a conference about relationships and gender roles one day. He was surprised to find out that a group of women had put together the conference because they wanted to hear his thoughts on MGTOW. John was nervous about giving a speech to a room full of women who might not agree with him, but he still went. John gave a well-thought-out speech at the conference about his beliefs and why he holds them. He talked about how important it is to be independent and take care of yourself, and how MGTOW lets men live full and meaningful lives without being limited by what society expects of them. Many of the women in the audience were nodding along with what he was saying, which surprised him. They knew where he was coming from and liked that he was clear and honest. Several women came up to John after the conference to thank him for his speech and say that they agreed with his ideas. John felt encouraged and good about himself after the conference. He saw that MGTOW wasn't about being against women. Instead, it was about giving men the power to live life on their terms. He was proud to be part of a community that told men to be their best selves and never give up their beliefs for anyone else. And so, the story comes to an end. John, who had overcome many obstacles and faced many challenges, had finally found peace and happiness. They had learned valuable lessons along the way and had grown as a person. The future looked bright and full of possibilities, and they were ready to face whatever came their way with courage and determination. They closed their eyes, took a deep breath, and felt the warm sun on their face, knowing that they were exactly where they were meant to be. The end.